Hey everyone, it's Marie and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be doing some watercoloring today, so I have some watercolor paper taped down to my mini clipboard. I'm leaving one side open because my design is going to kind of go off the side there. Now these are some stencils from Brutus Monroe, and I'm going to be doing some loose watercoloring over these stencils. I thought it would be kind of fun to kind of see what happens if you try to do watercoloring over a stencil, and I have to say I was really happy with the results. So I'm using this Pugsley stencil. It's one of my favorites, and I'm using this brush from Royal and Langnickel. I picked this up from Creativation this year. This is a watercolor brush. It's size 12 and I've been loving it for watercoloring. It's kind of a good size for doing images and different designs like I'm doing today. So I'm just getting some water on my brush and I'm tapping that water over the stencil. And I'm not really being too careful. I don't mind if a little bit of water seeps under the stencil because this is just going to be a very loose design. I don't expect perfect stenciling results doing watercolor because it's kind of hard to get perfect results with watercolor anyway. It likes to tend to do its own thing. So I'm just brushing a little bit of water over the stencil so that I can kind of get a design, and hopefully in the light here you can kind of see where my stripes are. Now I'm going to be adding some color, and to do that I have my palette here, and the colors that I'm using are Tattered Angels Glimmer Mists. Now these are paints that are translucent, so they are really great for watercoloring. I just like to pour a little bit into my palette and then use my brush to pick up the color and apply it to my project. So I'm just pouring in some different colors that I thought I might use, and I'm going to try to paint these on the stripes. Now I didn't know what was going to happen because I've never done this technique before, but I thought it would be kind of fun to experiment and see different ways we could use our stencils creatively. And I know a lot of people like watercoloring, so I thought I would just try this. So I'm also tipping my board a little bit. So I'm adding a little bit of color onto that water. And since there's already water there, it's going to help that color move. So I'm just adding a little bit of color with my paintbrush, and I'm tipping it to let it soak into all of those stripes and just move along. So it's really fun. Like I said, you're not going to get precise results, but it's really fun just to see that color spread out in the water and move along where you had already applied the water. So I think the color that I'm using here is Wedding Pink. It's a really light pink. It's got some shimmer in it, and I thought it was really pretty. It's going to go well with the stamp set that I'm using today, which is sort of a spring stamp set, a lot of pastel type colors that I used. So I picked this color. And I'm also going to take some of this dark purple and just add a little bit into the edges of these stripes. Now all I have to do is pick up a little bit of color and touch it to the edge of the stripes and tip my board, and all those colors are going to kind of run together, and you'll get a little bit of a graduation of color, so a little bit of an ombre effect. And I thought it was just really pretty, and I was honestly kind of wowed by these results because I did not expect it to work as well as it did. So once you have your colors down, you can carefully take your heat gun and just heat it up and dry it. I would say be careful not to let the colors go all over the place and kind of keep its shape, but it does work pretty good. So I thought I wanted to go ahead and try another stencil as long as I had my supplies out. So I'm using this Jagged Heart stencil as well. I wanted to see if stenciling over a shape would help it to hold its shape. And I was actually honestly pretty surprised by these results as well. So like I said before, the stencils are, watercoloring over the stencil is not going to give you a precise result, but it did really hold its shape very well on top of this watercolor paper, and I was able to go in and add some color and just watch that color fill up that area where I had stenciled. So it was really fun, just kind of an easy way to get some really nice backgrounds. Now, if you do want your shapes to be a little bit more precise, you can always take your paintbrush and kind of move that color around a little bit. So if your hearts here are not a perfect heart like you would like them to be, just take your paintbrush and kind of paint it in a little bit. But I really loved these sort of wild results here that they're not perfect. I thought it was just a really fun watercolor effect. So I've got some blue glimmer mist here that I'm adding down. I'm also going to add in some of that purple as well. I thought I'd just make a few backgrounds and just kind of watch those colors mix. I really love just touching the color to the water and just watching it spread out. I'm thinking about doing some galaxy, hopefully galaxy backgrounds in the future, but we'll see. So now I'm taking some powdered elements, and these are from Brutus Monroe as well. This is the penny color, so it's a copper. And I'm just going to scoop some out with the back of this watercolor brush. It's a little bit flat. I thought it would be perfect for scooping out a little bit of that powder and just adding it into my palette. And then I'm going to take some water with my brush and just add it onto those powdered elements, and you'll see that you can mix it with water and then it almost becomes a metallic watercolor. So it was really nice to add a little bit of shimmer to these hearts as well, and it just looked gorgeous when I finally went ahead and dried it. I wish my lighting was better so you could see all the detail in these hearts, because the shimmer and the colors mixed together just really looked beautiful. So I went ahead and I added a little bit of shimmer to all of these hearts, and then I went and I dried it with my heat tool. Now you do want to be kind of careful when you're drying it, just not to let the water kind of go everywhere. So as you start to dry it, I would kind of hold your heat tool back a little bit, and then as it dries, bring it in closer. But here is the finished result of the hearts, and I just loved it. And you can see some of that shimmer there. I also added some splatters for a little bit more texture in the background. So now that I have a few backgrounds done, I'm going to assemble my card. You can see I also added some of that penny powdered elements to my striped background here. I also took a strip of cardstock and I stenciled on some more modeling paste just to add a little something more to this card. So these pieces that I'm working with are the Cake Pops stamp set from Brutus Monroe. It's a newer stamp set and it's really fun. It's kind of a spring Easter type theme, but I thought I would just make a general hello card because those are the kind that I send most often. So I'm also taking some Brutus Monroe Renea foil paper. This is their penny as well, so it's going to match the penny powdered elements that I put onto the watercoloring. And I just put a little strip of that on the side with that other stenciled paper. And now I'm just going to assemble my little pieces here on the card. Now I colored these with some Prismacolor color pencils. I added some details to the pieces of candy with some Wink of Stella and a few Nouveau drops on that polka dotted one. So those polka dots have a little bit of texture, and I just thought that was fun. Now, once I have them arranged the way I want them to go on my card, I'm just going to take some Tombow liquid glue and just glue those pieces of candy down. I tried to keep all my colors sort of pastel here for the spring theme. Now for my cupcake, I put some foam adhesive on the back because I wanted to pop that up a little bit since that is the focal point. And then I just kept the sentiment very simple. I used a Lawn Fawn scripty word die and I used the word hello. I cut a bunch of tiny pieces of foam adhesive to put on the back, and it was a little bit tedious, but it's worth it. I left some foam adhesive off of the L's because they were going to overlap that cupcake, and it would have been too high with that adhesive behind the cupcake as well. So I just peeled off the back of all those pieces of adhesive, and I went ahead and adhered it down. And that was pretty much the card. I did add a little bit of ribbon to the top left corner after I stopped the camera. But as you can see, I really love the stenciling technique. I love the results it gave, and I'm going to try it again. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to visit my blog for more information, and thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.